Bismillah. Uh, Hello. Today in this session, we will discuss about one of the topic within the cost analysis and estimation courses, especially the topic about process costing. Okay, and process costing itself divided into two, which is the weighted average method and also FIFO. So for now, we will talk about the one with the weighted average method. Firstly, before that, we need to know what is costing actually. But basically, this is something that I already explained in the topic regarding the job costing. It's similar. So costing is the process of accumulating, classifying, assigning direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead costs to product, service, or project. So the important costs that we discuss here is the direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead costs. So this is costs that are related to the production. Okay, and then how to assign them to the end product. So there are two types, job costing, process costing. So now we are talking about the process costing. The process costing is a product costing system that accumulates costs according to process or department and assign them to large number of nearly identical product. So there are two keywords here, which is the first is process or department. So basically this is, there will be assembly line like this. So department can mean also workstation if you want, if it's more familiar for you. So basically in the product that has assembly line, usually product came to several assembly line, such as welding and then also painting, etc., etc. So in because of this, we need to do the process costing, right? And it's also nearly identical product. So it's different with the job costing, where job costing usually is only based on order, and the type of the product itself is quite customized. So every order usually is different with other order. So that is this. So usually they are finished one-time project, one-time project that are one-time product that are customized, and then while the one with the process costing is a nearly identical product that are continuously produced. So that is the difference. Typical firm that use process costing employs standardized production process. So as you remember, this a standardized production process to manufacture homogeneous products. So the products are similar. This firm usually engage in continuous mass production of a few similar products. So this is a continuous mass production. Remember, it's continuous. Therefore, uh, uh, yeah, I will explain later about it more. Okay, then production aims to make an inventory. So basically in here, usually instead of a one-time job where we finish by our order, this is the production aim to make an inventory, so to create stock. So basically we produce based on the forecasting that we already made, and then after we produce, we keep them in the inventory, so that later on when the sales or the marketing department want to sell, they will go to the inventory. Only if the inventory is empty, then they will produce more. However, usually because the production is continuous, there will always be a steady stream of a of a finished good that can be stored into the inventory. That's the idea. So this is the opposite of the job costing. So the characteristic is that first, the goal is to find the combined unit cost of all product unit processed in that period. So because as remember that this is a continuous process. So what does this mean? This means that at the end of every period, like monthly period of production, usually because it's continuous, there will be a number of a finished good, but there is also be a number of goods that are not yet finished, still in the process. So what we need, what we need to do with this thing, because this is already, this already transformed the input, the initial raw material is already transformed, but it's not yet finished. And we can only put the product cost after it finished, right? What happened with the one that are not yet finished? So this is something that we need to think about in a continuous process. Product cost for partially completed unit, or we call it work in process, are not readily available. Usually it's like this. Direct labor cost is not significant cost element in this process industry. Usually it's also like this because there is an assembly line. Usually there will be many machines, and then the cost and labor cost is not that significant. The cost of production report provide comprehensive information on the material, labor, and overhead incurred. So as you can see, for different department or workstation, there will be a cost production. There will be a cost regarding that already. The cost report for each of those costs, material, labor, and overhead that already spent in that department. This is called cost of production report. So however, as you can see, only if the product is complete that we can actually know what is the actual cost for each of them. But if it so what happened if there is a unit that are still partially complete only? That's why we need some kind of we call it equivalent unit. So this is one of the allocation method so that we can calculate later on. Okay, so I remember we talk about this in the early period of this topic of these courses. Okay, because of the relatively small direct labor content in many process industry, factory overhead and direct labor costs are sometimes combined. So remember, this is the conversion cost. So factory overhead and direct labor costs are added and then combined, and we call it conversion cost for the purpose of computing equivalent unit of production. So sometimes just for easy calculation, they combine them. So it will be like this. As you can see, the process costing flow, the three main costs: raw material, wage payable, or this is a direct labor, or factory overhead. So we can combine these two, direct labor with the factory overhead with the so conversion cost, and call it conversion cost. And as you can see here in the work in process, there will be several department: melting department, skim alloy department, molding department, and at the end it will produce the finished good. As you can see here, there are a continuous process. It's a continuous one, so it always flows like this. So because we cannot know what in this part what is the actual composition, here we use equivalent unit for this one. Okay, step in process costing. So what we do in the process costing, first analyze the physical flow of production unit. Then we calculate equivalent unit for each manufacturing cost element. So this is the equivalent unit for material, labor, overhead. Determine total cost for each manufacturing cost element. Okay, to the total cost, and then compute cost per equivalent unit for each manufacturing cost element. Yes, so cost per equivalent unit is basically total cost divided by the equivalent units. Okay, assign total manufacturing cost to unit completed and end the work in process. Okay, that's the step in process costing. Let's try to do exercise to make it more understandable for us to understand this topic. Okay, this is the example of a Ali company only produced through the production department. So this is only one department. So what happened? Can we use this? Yes, we can. So basically, although it's only one department, as long as it's a process manufacturing, I mean that they produce continuous process, then we can use them. So basically, where is the continuous one? The continuous one is that in each of the period between one period to other, there will always be a continuous stream of a production process. So it doesn't stop. Different from job order, right? So they produce like in like in 1 month, and then they are finished with that. Or we don't actually usually calculate per month. Their period is the period of of finishing the product from the start till the beginning. So it's different with this, because this is a continuous one. We cannot wait until it finish the project. So we use monthly period, different from the job order where we use the complete from the beginning till end as a one period. Okay, so here the following is the cost of information related to the production. So it purchased raw material 1100 unit, low labor cost like this. This is factory overhead cost. At the end of the inventory taking at the end of January, produce the following information. The finished goods is 600, raw material is 100, work in process is 400. Okay. Compile a production cost reporting assuming no unit are lost during the production. Okay. And then as you can see here, raw material cost, it's used like this. Labor cost, factory overhead cost is the total. As you remember, the labor cost added to the factory overhead cost can be called a conversion cost. Here you receive a data, as you can see here in the work in progress. So there are still work in progress, 400 unit work in progress, and there are these small, but this is important thing. This is the condition actually what happened in there. So it consists of 90% of raw material and 75% conversion cost. So for this work in process, we already spend like 90% raw material from this 400 unit, and only 75% of conversion cost, means that both the labor cost and factory overhead cost is 75%. So based on this, we can calculate the equivalent unit later on. So see this, to calculate the equivalent unit, first we have 600 finished good, and then 400 work in process with calculation using this percentage. Okay, so the total equivalent unit is like this. Okay, so now after that, after we calculate the equivalent unit, and now we check the cost of production. So work in the process, we don't have the beginning, because this is we don't have the previous. So this is the start of the production, and then added to the process 1000 in, and then finish it with 600, work in process 400, out of process like 1000. Okay, so this one raw material cost, the total raw material cost we get from previous one, and we have the equivalent unit. We can just divide them, when then we can get the equivalent unit, sorry, the cost per equivalent unit. So this is the cost per equivalent unit. Okay, see the total product cost, total cost per equivalent unit. Now allocation of production cost. So how do we calculate that? Allocation for work in process at the end. So raw material, for the raw material cost, only 400 EU time the cost per equivalent unit and 90%, and then we get this number. And labor also 75%, factory overhead 75%, because both of them are conversion costs, so it's similar but two of them. Okay, and then like this. So total work in progress is, this is the cost. So as for the finished good, with the total, right, because it's already finished, so we use the total one, 600 EU times 3000. So this is the number. So the total of allocation, cost allocation, is this number. Okay, as you can see, that is how to calculate the costs. At the end of the first period, there was a work in process of this number. Okay, this work in process. So this is means that the product is still in the process, it's not yet finished at the end of the period of accounting period. Okay, the WAP at the end of the first period is applied at the initial WAP in this work in progress in the second period. So this number of work in process will be continued in the second period. Okay, then this is will always continue. Okay, so there are two alternatives for the allocation of production cost, namely weighted average method and first in first out. And how do we calculate when they are, if we continue with the second one? Okay, there are two types. Now we are learning about the first one, weighted average method. So in the weighted average method calculation, there is no distinction between cost incurred and the previous previous period and the one are in the current period. So we consider there as the same one. So okay, we consider they are the same one, or perhaps even from different departments. So this is from the first period to the second period continues, or even from the first department to the second department, it's continuous, right? We consider they are the same. So the cost of the initial work in process inventory is added. So the cost of initial work in process inventory will be added, okay, to the cost of previous department and to cost of worker incurred. So this is will be added for in the current period. Unit costs are determined by dividing this cost by the equivalent quantity of so there will be divided this cost. Okay, so the important one is no distinction and it will be added directly. So as you see, for example, for exercise like this, Ali company only produce through one production department. The company set the cost of the process in preparing production process. Below is information on cost related to production in February 2019. Okay, so in this February, they only they purchase of raw material number like this number, but actually the 100 is from last month, so they only bought like 1,000. Okay, so this is the total cost that are being used, but they use all 1,100. Okay, labor cost, factory overhead cost, production, they only produce, they can use this one, but they only produce the same as according to their capacity, which is 1,000, and the work in process at the beginning is 400. This is came from the previous month, previous period. So the stock taking at the end of the month yield the following information. So it has a finished goods of 1,200, raw material is 75, and work in process is like this. So this is based on data. So as you can see here, we try to add them like this, and this is the raw material cost, raw material, uh, and this is the this is from calculating equivalent unit, because we have this finished good 1,200 and we have 200 of what do you call the work in progress, work in process. So this one we calculate them with the percentage that already available as information, and we get this number of equivalent unit. Okay, now see this cost of production report. So work in process beginning from previous period is 400, added to the process is 1,000, into process. So inside the process is 1,400. At finished goods is only 1,200. So there are still 200 of in work in process for the second period. Out of process is uh, uh, 1,400. Okay, so it's similar into and out. Okay, then it's always need to similar what all the total that are in and out. Okay, and now work in process in the beginning. Yeah, so this is the cost for those 400. So this is the cost, and raw material we get from the calculation previously. Okay, this one labor cost, this one is factory overhead cost, so this is the total, and this work in for the equivalent unit, this one we get from the for the finished good, and this one we got from the calculation for from this one. So conversion cost is consists of the labor cost and also factory overhead cost there. That's why they are the same. Okay, this is then we can get the number of the cost per equivalent unit and the total cost of equivalent unit. Using that, we can calculate the cost for using allocation for production cost. So for the one that are still in work in process, we the 200 EU, we times them differently to according to each of cost for equivalent per equivalent unit, and also the percentage that are being used. So we get this number, while for the finished good, we use the total of the cost per equivalent unit, one times the total of finished good, we get this one. Okay, then the total cost will be like this. Okay, that's what we can get. So as you can see here, although they are as you can see here directly, the one that are coming from the previous period directly will be combined with the second period, or even from the previous department will directly combine it with the next department. So this is what we call the weighted average method. So process costing is, as lesson learned to end this session, process costing is suitable for continuous production. Process costing is methodology used to allocate the total cost of production to homogeneous unit produced via a continuous process that usually involves multiple steps or department. Okay, that's all for now. I hope it will be useful. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.